Greetings, everybody. This is the Doctor. Welcome back to a little bit of news about Star Trek Online. This is January 10th, 2015. Happy New Year, everybody. There's been some news in Star Trek Online world that I can give you now. There has been some new announcements that are maybe a little bit, just a little bit controversy over it, but maybe it's not too bad, maybe it is, I don't know, but I do want feedback from you guys about this stuff because it's interesting. And then there's something else that's actually kind of funny, but not really so funny, that I want to show you as well. The first thing really here is we are on, as you can see, the Star Trek Online website. Bridge officer training. That's what we're going to talk about today. Bridge officer training is completely changing, and it's not out yet, and I don't know when it's going to be out, so don't ask. I have no idea when is it coming. It is probably not coming anytime soon, probably in Season 10. When is Season 10 coming? I have no idea. Obviously, next month, February, is the 5th anniversary of Star Trek Online. So there will probably be stuff happening around the anniversary time of Star Trek Online, but I don't know what. Okay, bridge officer training is something that's obviously been in the game forever. I mean, you have to be able to train your bridge officers to different skills and abilities. It's necessary to have your space and ground powers, else you wouldn't be able to do anything. There are at least two, but really more, different ways of changing your bridge officer powers currently. Number one is you can go to a lady on Earth Space Dock, and it's a bridge officer trainer, and you go there and you train your officers in whatever ability you want right now, and it's fairly cheap to do so. It's energy credits. It's easy to do. That's always been there. That's always there, but they are not high-level skills. They are like level 1 and 2. Now, there's another way you can also get skills, and that's going to the exchange and actually buying bridge officers or using bridge officers that you've got from missions as rewards and using that bridge officer to train up one of your bridge officers, and that completely uses up that bridge officer. But if they have a cool ability, especially a level 3 ability, you could train that officer in that ability. It would use up that officer, but you could put it on any of your characters. So that's always been there as well. And then another way that some people may not know is that other players can train abilities for your bridge officers too. All you have to do is strip everything off your bridge officers, and as long as they are commissioned, that's the requirement right now, they have to be commissioned bridge officers, and you can go to somebody in the game, another player who has the ability to train things, because everyone has the ability to train stuff. You know, as your own captain, you have abilities you can train bridge officers in, and those build, you know, as you rank up your character and as you use the skill tree to unlock different abilities, you can get different skills to unlock that you can train in, or train those skills. So you can trade your bridge officers with people, and it puts it on their roster, and then they go in and train the character to whatever skill that they have that you want. You know, level 3 skills, good stuff. And then trade it back, and you'll have your bridge officer that has that skill. So those ways exist in the game, and that's worked out pretty well. I mean, there really hasn't been any complaints or a need for improving bridge officer training. Well, that's kind of been like, cool, all right, it works. You know, no one's really thought twice about bridge officer training. Well, Cryptic apparently has thought twice about bridge officer training because they want to change it up on us. And this is going to be a little controversy. Some people are going to like this, some people aren't. My initial reaction when I read all this was one of anger and loathing, but I still am going to do a wait and see approach, and we will see how it all turns out. A lot of people will debate this and say that this is just another way to have a money sink in the game. Dilithium, whatever, another money sink. And that's what I want your opinion is do you think that that's what this is? Do you see it as just a money sink, or does this whole new bridge officer training thing to you sound like a good idea for the future of Star Trek Online. So let's read about it first. All right. Bridge officers and their abilities are an important part of Star Trek Online, and we have wanted to improve that player experience for quite some time. Just a side here. Interesting they say that, because not once have I heard that they've wanted to change it. In fact, this seems rather abrupt, to say the least. I haven't heard in the 5 years of Star Trek Online anybody mention that they've wanted to change the bridge officer training. So, yeah, anyway. Finally, that day is here, and we are excited to give players a glimpse of the upcoming revamp. From a high-level standpoint, the updated bridge officer training system is focused on allowing players to invest in their bridge officers by training them in any of their class and specialization abilities, which can then be easily swapped in and out on the fly. Okay, I like the in and out on the fly swapping kind of thing, kind of like traits, I guess, which is really cool. I like the way I like what they did with traits. They really moved that into the right direction. If that is how they plan to do bridge officer training, that could be interesting. It could be simpler. And it sounds like we're going to get some specialization abilities for bridge officers, so that's going to be something new. To train a bridge officer with the new system, you simply need to obtain the training manual for the desired ability and have the needed expertise points required for training. Training a bridge officer in the new ability will consume the training manual in the process. Once trained, the bridge officer will now permanently have the new ability, okay? Well, that to me sounds kind of cool, because that means you only really need to get the training video, the training manual, like once or whatever, and then it's permanently there. After you train it, yeah, it's used up, but then it's permanently there for the entire time of your character, so that's kind of cool, I suppose, if that's how it's supposed to work. In addition, bridge officers now will have to train in any will now be able to train in any specialization. This means that any tactical, engineering, or science bridge officer can be trained in specializations such as intelligence or any future releases. Not only that, but we have also exposed new ranks of some abilities that were previously available. So I kind of see this as a combining of the different careers. I like that. That's sounding pretty good. Training manuals. Players will no longer need to consume another bridge officer to give their bridge officers a new ability. Instead, each ability will have a training manual item for each available rank of the ability. Using the overhauled bridge officer skill tree, players will be able to see all of the known abilities and untrained abilities a bridge officer has. As a bridge officer is trained in additional abilities, the expertise points required to learn a new ability will increase. With the new system in place, a bridge officer will be able to learn all available abilities for his class, and also abilities for his specialization. Bridge officers must still be promoted to learn additional higher-ranking abilities. The primary method for obtaining training manuals is to be purchased from any of the current bridge officer training officers, who will now sell the manuals. Any ability that was previously trainable will have a training manual available for purchase. The other method in which players can obtain training manuals for the higher ranked abilities is to craft them in the new officer training crafting school. I see them pushing crafting here. This is a way for them to push crafting. I think they want people to do more R&D in this game and more crafting. And I think that that's what I'm seeing here with this specific statement, that the higher ranked abilities, you will have to craft them. That means if you're not a crafter like me, your only other way to get them is going to be in the exchange. Once a training manual is purchased or crafted, it may be traded with other players and posted on the exchange. This will be very helpful for players who wish to obtain manuals which they are unable to craft due to class restrictions, or just people like me who don't want to craft at all anyway. I'm not into crafting. I don't play the game to craft. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to be stuck buying these in the exchange. I'm going to need energy credits to do that. Crafting School Officer Training. Many of the higher ranking training manuals will not be for sale at the Bridge Officer Trainer. Players will need to craft those manuals in the new Officer Training School. Unlike the other crafting schools, the Officer Training School does not need to be leveled in order to unlock the recipes. In fact, this school has no experience associated with it at all. Players either have the recipes unlocked or they don't. Class-specific recipes for manuals are unlocked by spending the necessary skill points within the player skill tree. This works identically to how the system currently functions, but players now will unlock the crafting recipe instead of the ability to directly train a bridge officer. Once the recipe is unlocked, players may begin crafting those training manuals. Also, the Stowe team has also been considering updating the skill system in the future. And if this happens, the method for unlocking training manual recipes will change. It is important to note that players only unlock class-specific recipes for the class of their character. So if your character is a tactical officer and you wish to obtain high-ranking engineering or science manuals, you must trade or purchase them from other players. Interesting. All right. All crafted manuals will require a PAD, personal access display device, which is a new crafting component. The cost of crafting this component is several uncommon crafting materials and a small amount of dilithium, dilithium, and energy credits. Once a PAD component is created, players can use it to create their own manuals so they can be traded and sold to other players for assistance in creating manuals you might not have access to. So this just shows you their huge focus on pushing crafting here. I mean, it's just plain, that is how I see it. One of the most exciting updates to bridge officer training is the ability to train bridge officers in specializations. Training in a specialization is similar to the normal process in that it requires a type of manual called a specialization qualification. A specialization qualification is unique in that they not only unlock that specialization for the bridge officer, but also trains him in 4 space and 4 ground abilities, one for every available slot from the get-go. Once a specialization is unlocked, that bridge officer can continue to learn any special abilities from it. While currently bridge officers can only learn the intelligence specialization, we will be releasing more in the future. Each additional specialization that a bridge officer learns will cost an increased amount of expertise points. The training manuals for any specialization can still be purchased from the bridge officer trainers, with the exception of higher ranking abilities and the specialization manual itself. All specialization manuals must be crafted. Okay. To unlock the recipe for crafting a specialization manual, players must have spent 10 skill points within the desired specialization. To unlock the additional higher ranking ability recipes, players must spend around 20 skill points. Bridge officers may learn all available specializations, but may only have one active at a time. I see that as a little limiting. Once a specialization is learned, though, players can quickly and easily swap the specialization bridge officer has active at any time out of combat. And going on here, not only has the skill screens happened, but a major overhaul to the interface for bridge officers also. Besides numerous interface improvements, players will now be able to swap out individual bridge officer abilities directly on the station screen. This will allow players to quickly and easily customize their bridge officer abilities to the ship stations. So there's some screenshots of it. This is how you will now slot your bridge officers, and apparently also the specializations and stuff right from this screen. I mean, how this is all going to work in practice yet, unknown. I haven't, it's, not on holodeck yet. I'll wait till holodeck. I'm not going to mess with any betas or anything on Tribble. I'm going to wait till the whole thing is out, then I'll look at it. There it is. So I don't know. Interpret that. There you go. Interpret that, because I don't know. So that's it in a nutshell. So there's been a lot of controversy over it. Obviously, the first thing that people bring up is, oh, it's another money sink. We got to sink our dilithium, energy credits, and expertise is mentioned a lot. So expertise points, which you earn basically just by running missions or anything in the game to earn those expertise points. There's no quick way to earn expertise points other than just playing the game. And I think that's the point there. They want you playing the game to earn expertise points. So a lot of expertise points will be needed for this. But at the same time, energy credits and then dilithium too. Especially if you're going to craft, dilithium is just a requirement. Now for people like me that don't craft, it's going to be energy credits, right? Because we're going to get that stuff from the exchange. But I also see this as a little bit of downside to the people like me who don't craft, because we are only limited then in that way. Since I don't craft, I'm not going to worry about crafting. That's my only way to get the high-ranked abilities is going to be the exchange, and I bet you that's going to be expensive. As always, people are going to charge as much as they can to get as much energy credits as they can for their stuff they've crafted. That's a huge money maker in the game, is people crafting things and selling them. So this is going to benefit them. This is going to benefit crafters a lot. People like me who already don't have a lot of energy credits to begin with, we're going to get totally... it's bad for us, I think. I mean, I liked the ability of being able to get high-ranked skills the way it is right now. So I don't know how that's going to, really work. But I will say this, I was reading the forum about this, and some poster, I will show you his name here, we'll go ahead and bring him up. He has created this awesome overview of how this is going to work. And this is a forum thread. I'll put the link in the description, but I'll go ahead and read it to you now because it really kind of summarizes all of this, and it paints a better light on it than was initially received. Crafting training manuals. You need those pads. They take 4 hours to build. So this is a guy who is, I guess, using Tribble. I think this might be on Tribble already, or at least in some beta form. So he has tested this and given us some results. So this is, I guess, what you can expect right now, but there might be changes before it goes to holodeck. Okay, you need those pads. They take 4 hours to build. You can queue up to 5. And it costs 500 dilithium. If you get a pad, you can then create a training material, which then takes a few seconds. So that's the cost, I guess, 500 dilithium per pad. This is the only way currently you can get rank 3 abilities. Any skill you could previously train. In my case, I noticed I could also train abilities from other careers. I suspect that this is not intended, as you can only train those of your career. So that's the only way to get the rank 3 abilities, you see. All right. I have not seen any way to train powers that could only be gotten from other BOs. I want to be able. I wish that they would still have that ability, because I liked being able to get another bridge officer and train up from that bridge officer. If they take that away, that's really going to hurt people like me. And I know there's other players that don't craft or don't care about it. So, I mean, this is like, this could make our lives a little more difficult. Buying training manuals from the old BO trainers, it costs a marginal amount of EC that I didn't memorize. You can pick all the powers you could previously pick there using training manuals. When you go to the skills tabs for a bridge officer, you can see what skills he has slotted. If you pick a ground or space slot, it shows what powers the BO knows already and what powers he could be trained in for that slot. If you train that power, the bridge officer keeps that skill forever. So I do like that fact, at least. That's kind of cool. The cost for training additional powers increase. The cost seems to be separately increased by power or rank. Example, if you train multiple ensign powers, the price for ensign powers seems to go up. But this does not affect lieutenant commander powers. The cost seems to be in the same low regions as before, e.g. hundreds of thousands at worst. BO's skills no longer have a training level from 1 to 9. You used to need to spend points to train a skill. That seems to be gone entirely, and the skills seem to be maxed out entirely. So I guess you don't have to add skill points like XP points to your character like you had to before, which actually used expertise points for that. Leveling them from 1 to 9 before you could promote them and all that. So I guess that's not going to be needed in this new system. It seems sensible. The system gains some complexity with the change, and there is not really a need for this mechanic. I agree with that. There's probably not a need for it. So it being gone, that could simplify things a little bit. In the skill tabs, you can train a bridge officer provided you have the manual for it, and you can select what powers he has currently active. You can change the powers the buff has active also in the sections tab, where you get an overview of all the stations. But you can't train new ones here. The selection of powers is part of the ship's loadout. Restrictions are generally the same as before. A lieutenant commander power, like Transfer Shield Strength 3, can only go in a lieutenant commander slot of a bridge officer, and only be used if the ship has a bridge officer station for a lieutenant commander science power. The difference to before is that your BOs can know multiple powers for a particular slot, and you can choose which one is to be active. Okay, I like that. That sounds cool to me. That's well, I guess go hand in hand with the easily swapping out of powers things. Bridge officers have a default loadout of skills. I presume this is the default when you use them for the first time on a ship and haven't yet had a loadout specified. The UI for your Bridge Officer Reserve has changed. It is now its own window. You can open from the spot you could originally see them lined up on the right. I noticed that many of the Bridge Officers, but none of the special powers gained from Reputation Completion or Featured Episode Series no longer had any powers listed. Unfortunately, I don't remember how I got these BOs, but many may actually be from doffing. The character is... yeah, okay. Worst case scenario could be that a lot of BOs... yeah, okay. So overall, this person believes that overall this looks interesting and he likes the features. He says here the dilithium cost is not big. It's only needed for the rank 3 powers, and it's not needed often since BOs no longer forget powers. They will keep them forever. So I like that fact. In turn, you get a lot more flexibility and can work with a much more smaller crew of actively maintained BOs. It invites more experimentation. No longer need to worry about BOs forgetting a power just because you overwrote them with another power. I haven't okay. So I will link this thread in the description, and you can read all of that and other people's comments on it. But from this thread, it doesn't sound like it is too big of a dilithium sink. The dilithium will be needed for the tier 3 powers. And you won't need them as often because once you train it in that tier 3 power, that bridge officer knows it forever. So you don't have to keep training over and over again. But for people that don't craft, that's not going to be applicable, like me. I also see that this may make things a little more flexible, and I like the idea of having less bridge officers and just having like all of the bridge officers trained in all the abilities they can, and then swap out the powers as needed. And I guess that means we won't have to have as many bridge officers in our loadouts, in our UI. You know, right now, some people's bridge officers, they got 1 million bridge officers because they customize each one for a different kind of build and then replace that bridge officer, in the area they need. Like maybe they have some kind of science, 2 different like science power kind of builds or tactical builds or whatever. Well, now this could be a little easier because one bridge officer can do all of it. So I think this might simplify things a little bit in that regard, but what will be complicated is actually learning how this system works in the first place. Figuring out how we're going to be able to train our characters, especially for people that don't craft. I'm not going to be able to craft my own bridge officer powers, so where am I going to get them from? That's what I'm going to have to figure out. And there's probably a lot of people on my boat that don't like to craft or don't want to spend the time crafting. Another news item here I hadn't read, so let's just glance over this. Star Trek Online is getting ready to celebrate its 5th anniversary, and part of the update includes a major overhaul to how captains train abilities. Okay, so I guess this is going to be part of the 5th anniversary. The goal of this update is to make it much easier to understand the options available. See, captains will have a much easier time choosing abilities for their bridge officers, blah, blah, blah. The icons have been the same since the game's launch 5 years ago. Why change them now? Ultimately, it came down to the fact that for many captains, the new training system will expose a large variety of these abilities for the first time. We wanted the icons of these abilities to be intuitive to the purpose and or the name of the ability. More intuitive icons make selecting the abilities in the new DOF training system easier, and seeing them all at a glance through the new iconography will help players compare and contrast the advantages of each ability. Okay, sure, if you say so. Most of the icons for engineering, science, and tactical in the game currently are extremely abstract and do not have an obviously correlation with the function or name of the power they represent. Our goal with these new icons was to address this issue both for new players and players who are experiencing the breadth of options opened up to them by the new Bridge Officer Training revamp. This update also provides some useful improvements for veteran captains. We have added a rank indicator to icons for abilities that are ranked. This means that captains who choose to slot Engineering Team 1 and Engineering Team 2 on their tray will be able to see in the lower left corner a Roman numeral indicating which is which. The new icon designs also finally standardize the symbols for starship subsystems. engines, power, shields, and auxiliary, with the icon language used by the HUD making it easier to see how those powers interrelate. Finally, effort was made to standardize the design of various abilities that share cooldowns. For example, all of the Emergency Power 2 abilities use a similar design language, as do grenade abilities on the ground. Okay, I like that idea, because figuring out which abilities shared a cooldown was always a difficult thing to figure out unless you just knew what it was. So some ability to look at the icon and know that it shares a cooldown with another icon, that will be beneficial to players, I think. A really big benefit right there. So I like that. While we do anticipate a transition period for everyone who has gotten used to the old icons over the last 5 years, it is our hope that the new designs are much easier to learn than the old ones. The new icons will be going to Tribble before they hit holodeck, so interested players can test them there and provide feedback. We have also included a complete look below of all the planned icon changes, contrasting the old and the new. Please take a look and let us know what you think. We'll be looking at feedback and making adjustments. Awesome. I like the fact that they're finally getting feedback from us on something and utilizing it. Hey, that's a change. Having more intuitive icons makes it easier to understand the ability tray at a glance and makes combat more engaging when it's clear how activating any given ability will affect the outcome of battle. We've also taken the opportunity to infuse just a little more Star Trek in the game with some of the new icons. Okay, this sounds great. I like everything I'm reading here. I got no complaint with this. This needed to happen years ago, as far as I'm concerned. So here we go. New engineering ground icons. Wow, okay. Chronoton Mine, no change. Combat supply. Now it's a box. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. To cover shield, I mean, yeah, you can look at it and see that it's a cover shield. I'm liking these icons. These look really cool. Field dome, I like that. You can tell it's a dome. This is neat. Quick fix. Quantum mortar, just a little bit of an update. I don't see much of a change there. Orbital strike, I like that one. This is neat. Engineering space icons. This is cool. I like these. Boarding party is now actually a shuttle instead of, what did that ever mean? That means nothing. This is good. I like that. Eject warp plasma is plasma coming out of the ship. Imagine that. Huh. I like all these changes. I like that. Okay, let's go to Science Ground. Wow. These are cool. Yep, radiation. I like that. Nanite health monitors and bar. I like that. This is cool. I like these icons. These are nice. Tychon's Rift is actually a Tychon's Rift. Where's Gravity Well? Because I've always liked that one. There it is. It's Gravity Well. Tactical Ground. What do we have here? We've got... These are cool too. Oh, look at this. Look at Lunge. So much better than whatever that was supposed to be. This is nice. It's an actual guy lunging toward. That's good. Finally. And we got grenades. Got grenades on the icon. Ooh, that's nice. Now we know it's a grenade ability. Security escort instead of a flower. Now we have actual security escorts. I mean, why weren't these changes done decades ago? Seriously. Beam fire at will is 3 beams. It makes sense. Oh, wow. Beam overload. That's cool, too. Wow, these are nice. Torpedo spread. Spreading torpedoes. I can get used to these icons. I think they're pretty easy to recognize. Abandoned ship stays the same. Brace for impact. These stay the same. Ramming speed changes. Nice. I can get down with that. This is an update that needed to happen years ago, so this is cool. New bridge officer icons for the win. My question to you guys is on the bridge officer training. One of the complaints, beyond all the others that I mentioned, is just the fact that why now? It seems like this would be a season update, like season 10, season 11. You would get this kind of big sweeping update on something in a season update. It sounds like this is going to be part of the anniversary, which doesn't make a lot of sense because normally things like this, again, are in seasons, not in anniversaries or anniversary updates. Anniversary updates are usually like a new mission and a new ship or something, not a bridge officer training change. So the timing of it is a little strange. Also, the fact we've never heard of it before, that that they were working on this whole time. And another thing is there are so many other priorities that gamers believe that need to be tackled in Star Trek Online. Bridge officer training is arguably not one of those that needed to be changed right now. It probably could have waited. There are things that have been promised to us that we still don't have in the game, and I'm going to bring up again secondary deflectors for science ships. Been promised that all science ships would get secondary deflectors. I mean, why is that not yet in the game? It's been several seasons since that came to the game with the Dyson ships that have it, but why hasn't that been finished? That's something that needs to be finished. Why are they putting a priority now on bridge officer training when there's other things in the game that need to be finished before that? So that's one of the complaints. Why now? Why not finish some of the other stuff first that you said was going to be in the game, and then give us bridge officer training in a season update like season 10, or season 11. Why not do it then? So the timing of it is questionable. But I want to hear from you guys in the comments what you think of the bridge officer training overall. Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? Do you think it's a money sink, dilithium, whatever? Do you see it as a way to push crafting? What do you think of it? I want to know. Something a little funny I want to bring up, because I didn't realize this, and this is actually, I was reading the forum and I found this out. Apparently the Benan ship, the Tier 6 Benan ship that's been in this game since Delta Rising, is backwards. That's right, the ship is backwards from what the show showed it. There's a thread, of course, somewhere here. I'll put a link to it. It's called Something's Really Wrong with the Benan Assault Cruiser. And they link to a YouTube of a Voyager episode showing the Benan ship in motion. And indeed, it's backwards in Star Trek Online. Yeah, the front is the back and the back is the front. How Cryptic completely missed this after this long, and it still hasn't been talked about or updated or fixed. And they probably don't even know about this. But apparently it got by them. The ship is backwards in game. So here's what it's supposed to look like, or how it's supposed to be oriented. The back is actually the bubble. The bubble is supposed to be in the back. And that is the warp drive. And as you can see, the two impulse engines are on the back, which is the bubble. And then the front has the weapon mounts and the bridge. So this is the front and this is the back. Bubble on the back, the weapon mounts and the bridge on the front. Well, in Star Trek Online, it's backwards. The ship flies with the bubble and the impulse engines going forward. And this is on the back, the bridge and the weapon mounts. So yeah, it's backwards. It's true. All you got to go do is watch that episode, or watch that area. The times are shown right there in the episode of Voyager, and you can see how it's supposed to be flying in the show. Now, it may look better with the bubble flying front and all this on the back, but that's not how it was in the show. So the ship is completely reversed. And it's funny, people have made a little meme about it, and here's someone made a sig about it here, aft 4, to show us, that's how it's supposed to fly. This is the 4 and this is the aft. But it's backwards in the game, that's right. So it's been that way since Delta Rising, and it remains that way now, and I don't even know if the devs know or if they even realized it, but I'm surprised that got by them, to be honest with you. To put a ship backwards in the game, Yeah, that's surprising. This is important to me because one of the next ships I will be reviewing is the Benton Assault Cruiser. So I hope they get it right by the time I get my video out, or else, just like everybody else, my ship will be flying in reverse, apparently. Yeah, that's funny. Funny, but yet not funny. You know what I mean? All right, well, that's a very long news update there on a couple of things in Star Trek Online. I just wanted to get that out there to you guys, some things that are coming. Oh, yeah, one other thing. I was reading this, too. I don't know what this is about. Someone tell me. Reports of strange Borg activity are on the rise near Deep Space Nine. We are sending an elite strike force to investigate. I expect the commanding officer to report back their findings to us soon. In the meantime, keep a watchful eye on our Bajoran friends. Starfleet protects their own, and we will fight the Borg with everything we've got to protect one of the core members of the Federation. We will alert the fleets when we have confirmation of this strange activity. So some Borg activity near the Bajoran space in Deep Space Nine. Maybe this is hinting at what's coming for the anniversary, because sometimes they have a new mission, a new episode to play, and a new ship to release. Maybe that's what they're going to do this anniversary. And maybe this is connected to it. I don't know, but this came out yesterday, January 9th. So something's going on. They're building something here that's going to be in Star Trek Online coming, and I'm looking forward to whatever that is. Interesting that it deals with Deep Space Nine again. I'm glad they're finally bringing Deep Space Nine back into the game again. That station, that whole area, has been abandoned ever since they stripped the STFs away from Deep Space Nine. That place has just become abandoned. Anyway, there you go, everybody. That is some information. Drop a line. Let me know what you think about all this. And have fun. See you next time. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next one.